Hello caffeine fiends and welcome to another coffee review for www.getbean.com. I'm Vince the Mean Bean Machine and today we're looking at Sanctuary Coffee's Chilly Willie. Now, I have seen Sanctuary Coffee about a lot and they're a coffee I've wanted to try for a little while because they're a roaster that supports rescue animals and sanctuaries through their coffees. So every time you buy a coffee, a donation is made to one of like 6 animal charities. So they support a horse sanctuary. There's like an exotic animal sanctuary. There's a farm sanctuary that looks after dogs with behavioural issues as well as pigs. There's a greyhound sanctuary, and is that all of them? I might be missing one, but they're part of their proceeds are going to animal sanctuaries, as well as the fact that they're ethically sourced. All their material is recyclable. There's no plastic. And it's all responsibly sourced, blah, 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 blah. So, that's all great. Being a vegan, eco hipster, one of those awful millennials that is into that sort of thing, who loves coffee, I thought, yeah, that's right up my street, bang up my street. So, bought a couple of boxes of their coffee. One just for my standard day-to-day, very nice coffee. Inoffensive. Don't have a lot to say about it on this particular review. However, I also picked up Chilly Willie, which is a Colombian coffee that is a bit special. So it's it's kind of it's sourced and roasted in such a way and prepared in such a way that it actually supposedly tastes more like a tropical juice than a coffee. And I've heard this before. And some coffees I've been like, yeah, wow, that's really great. I've had it from coffees from Girls Who Grind Coffee and a few others that we've reviewed. Some of them, in their kind of process, the way they're grown, do have really fruity flavour profiles. So it doesn't surprise me, but I am really interested in these more kind of smaller batches that have kind of out there flavours. So, being a Colombian coffee, I was drawn to it because I really like Colombian coffees, but I really like Colombian coffees because they tend to be, or the ones I've had tend to be very kind of caramelly and chocolatey. So, a fruity Colombian coffee is very intriguing to me. Now, this box of beans cost me £15 for 100 grams. 100 grams. So that is expensive. So, but again, being one of these kind of exquisite flavour profiles that's grown and prepared in such a specialist way, I will let it go. Because it's not going to be a regular day-to-day brew. I doubt they'll have it for very long on their website because they'll have a small amount of it. But it does say that its flavour profiles are blood orange, guava and passion fruit. Now those are 3 really strong flavours, really acidic flavours. So they've gone in bold. They've gone straight away saying this is going to be fruity as heck. So that's a lot to stand up to. What I will say is that you'll notice in the video behind me when I unpack the beans, they're sealed, so they're vacuum packed, which is really interesting. You don't usually get beans that vacuum packed when I take them out of the box, and apparently they're frozen as well. When they kind of, I don't think they were frozen when they shipped to me, but whatever. So that's really, really interesting in the way that they're trying to maintain this flavour profile as best as they can before it gets to you. So really sweet and really acidic. Or sharp. I'm not expecting sharpness. But you open the beans and you instantly get a fruity smell, which is bizarre from coffee. It doesn't smell of coffee. You go, wow, that's really fruity. And even now, when I'm talking to you now, the smell of the espresso is really kind of orangey. It's almost like an orange juice smell, which is really bizarre. So I'm really intrigued, because if that smell translates to taste, this is going to be a weird sensation for me. So, as always, I've gone for the espresso shot, the oat latte, and a cup of water just to cleanse the palate between the two. So I'm expecting quite a sharp, not spiky coffee, but quite a sharp, fruity espresso. What worries me is the latte. I don't think, because it will be a milky, it will have the oat milk juxtaposing with that sharpness, and I'm like, man, that might be a bit gross. However, if the espresso comes off, then it might kind of translate well into a black coffee, a long black coffee. But yeah, it's coffee that's doing good things and smells great and is roasted in London, so it hasn't come a long way to me. So let's give it a go and hope for the best. So cleanse the palate first and go for the espresso. Really fruity, orangey, but it's not that sharp orange. I understand just from like the smelling it why they've kind of gone plus guava and passion fruit, because it's not that sharp. This is orange juice. There's definitely something else there, but you do kind of go instantly, yeah, there's a fruitiness about this, and that's without tasting it. So here goes. Yeah, wow. So not as sharp as I was. Oh, sorry. Wow, there's an aftertaste that comes through. Not so quickly, but yeah, you swallow it and you kind of go, yeah, that's kind of orangey. And then this almost, I would almost say grapefruit, but I understand where they're coming from with passion fruit, kind of, not grapefruit. That is something very different. What's that? Pomegranate, almost. But I understand why they've kind of gone guava, passion fruit, because there's more of a sharpness to it. I don't know my fruits. There's an internet meme for you. No. So the blood orange, understandable. I also understand why they've gone with blood orange, because it's not that sharp. There's that kind of sweet but mellow. There's a slight mellowness to it. There's not that sharp bite of a really citrusy orange. But it's definitely... What I will say is there's a sharpness, but there's no bite at the back of the throat or the cheeks. It's smooth as heck. It's actually a really smooth and silky coffee, given the flavour palette of sharp kind of fruits that you'd expect from orange or guava. The coffee is smooth as anything. So that's a really interesting espresso. And you do kind of think, well, have I just drunk coffee? That tastes very fruity, which is amazing. Really, you don't kind of go, oh, that's orange juice. But you sure as hell don't go, that's coffee. That's amazing. That is genuinely amazing. I am stunned. I really enjoyed that, actually. It's like a smooth tropical juice. That really is no sharpness, but really does play about with the senses on the tongue, and the smoothness, like I've just said, is well, it's kind of confusing my brain, really, because it's kind of going, well, there should be some sharpness there, but it's really smooth. But lovely as an espresso. I could drink that several times over and give myself a headache for the rest of the day. I'm really worried about it as an oat latte. But I do think, having tried the espresso, like I say, if you had that as a long black coffee, so, watered down a bit, that would be really, really nice, because it would be like a squash or something. A warm Not a warm squash, because that sounds a bit weird. I know some people have warm Ribena, but they are weird. But yeah, there's a definite fruitiness to it that's really well defined. So intrigued to see how it pans out as an oat latte. Interesting. You know, not unpleasant. There isn't that kind of clash I was expecting, but the oat latte obviously does kind of, the oat milk draws it back a little bit. So there is that fruitiness becomes a bit more, becomes a bit tamer, obviously. But it does work well with the oat milk. I think that sweetness is less kind of, it becomes more balanced and less fruity. There's definitely a fruitiness to it. But it almost becomes like a cereal against the oat milk, which is strange. It's quite pleasant actually, because you get the milk, the sort of oatiness. It almost amplifies the oatiness a little bit. So you get this kind of savoury taste, and then this burst of sweetness through it. But it's really quite pleasant, almost like a chocolate orange. I mean, it's not chocolatey, but you know when you kind of get that intense initial flavour and then a burst of something secondary through it. It's a bit like that. And it does work as an oat latte, but I wouldn't necessarily sit and sip that, all day. And for 15 quid for 100 grams, I sure as hell wouldn't. But if they do still have this on their site, definitely pick up some of that, because that is a really interesting, really nice coffee, and it's doing great things. So, yeah, I'm going to go away, finish my oat latte, have a few thoughts about this. Yeah, and really just make some notes. But that, like I say, I think as a black coffee, possibly as even a cold brew, although I'm not going to risk it for the money I've spent on it. As an espresso is lovely, really lovely. And as a black coffee, I think you'd really get the fruitiness would be kind of really nicely evened out and paced. As a long black coffee, like an Americano or something. Perhaps not necessarily suited to oat lattes, but still not unpleasant. Yeah. Well, I'm going to go away and think about it, like I just said. Do hit those like and subscribe buttons in the meantime. And check us out at www.getbeamed.com. And also like social media, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. So, straight off the bat, I've gone in with 4 stars. I really, really wanted to give this coffee 5 stars, but at £15 for 100 grams. You're going to struggle to get me to give it anything 5 stars at that cost. But I understand where that cost is coming from, so I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying, that money is doing good things. There's direct trade involved, or transparent trade, and plus the support of animal charities, so fine, whatever. Really silky smooth coffee, yet really bold in flavour. It's bold, it's beautiful, but there's no kind of bite, there's no sharpness to it. It's extremely fruity and citrus, but without that acidity. So again, that bite isn't there. It works great without milk. Like I mentioned in the review, it's not horrendous with oat milk. You could have it as a latte and you wouldn't be horrified, but personally, I'd just have it as a black coffee. So really happy with that. Do pick it up if you can still at Sanctuaries website. In the meantime, hit those like and subscribe buttons, and we'll see you all soon. Bye bye.